It's not public because it's on the internet. It's not happening.
That's public.
It's not public. You have to log onto your phone. How would you say that's public? You're paying to
Children
enter the
can get access to it. Candace, you're saying you don't want to say pro-porn because you think there's problems with it.
Yes.
But your position would be that people should be allowed to make and distribute it. I mean, that seems fairly simple, but where are we at?
What do you mean, where are we at?
Well, like, what's the issue, right? Do we want to say ban porn?
Well,
Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'll let her give your position, and then you can. Yeah.
So I think like the thing that's trending right now on X is ban porn, and everyone's trying to make this really big political statement about it, and just to make it illegal outright. And I don't know if that's really well thought out in the sense that if you start with one thing and you use obscenity as the reason to get rid of it, then that's going to trickle down into other things. If you're using the Miller test to establish whether or not it should be protected under freedom of speech, there are a lot of other things that could possibly fail that absolutely shouldn't.
What's the Miller test?
So it's basically to establish...
Three-pronged, right?
Yeah, so it
test.
has to be presented in front of like a reasonable average person, and if they see that it's like, if they would consider it obscene or not, then by community standards essentially, and then they also look at if it provides any other value, scientific, political, artistic, and there's like one other category. So basically, it has to apply to the community as at a reasonable standard. Twofold, and then also present like some kind of value.
Oh, so
right?
Everybody would want to ban it then?
Well, no. So it actually passes. So that's the thing that people don't understand. Like, and then
the threshold for obscene is really high. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't get banned.
Let's mention this too. Like Ian made the point that it's not a monolith.
Right.
So depends on the porn you're showing the person.
Exactly. So that's the thing. So traditional vanilla hetero porn by default is probably going to pass the test. So when you say ban porn, are you saying like the really extreme stuff at kink? Because I would probably be on board with like a lot of that should probably not be legal, because once you introduce money, I don't know that you can really consent to certain levels of abuse. You know what I mean? So when we say porn, I think we need to kind of narrow down like what do we mean by porn? Because is that also erotica? Is that nudes? Is that solos? Like the span is so vast that I think you have to say like what is porn? Is it a magazine? Is that still porn?
Wait, hold on. So you're saying that if like, two people are going at it, just regular old vanilla, people don't consider that obscene?
No, because it's a natural behavior. So the obscenity part would be like, that it's getting filmed or that someone's getting money for it. It's the act. So that's the reason that like children are protected, right? Like that is obscene. It is though. You can look at the rulings.
You put two people out in the middle of the street and have them go at it, and that's going to be obscene.
No, but it's not saying that public sex is okay because that's not okay. That's illegal. It's saying is sex being recorded between a man and a woman?
It's public sex.
It's not public because it's on the internet. It's not happening.
That's public.
It's not public. You have to log onto your phone. How would you say that's public? You're paying to
Children
enter the
can get access to it?
They sure can, yeah. And that's
bookstores are public.
But do you like who should be in charge of access when you get to that point? Like, is it the parents' responsibility? What I see is a lot of. You don't think so at all?
I think like adult bookstores, we have laws where it's like you got to show ID if you want to get in. The idea that we're going to be like, nah, kids on the internet, you can look at whatever you want. Wait, why? Since when?
Those adult bookstores, though, you wouldn't have to show ID if you were like a 50-year-old man with a beard.
Sure.
But on the internet, it's blanket. They can't. No, I don't think so. It's a waste of people's time. And I don't want to give the government my data when I go.
Then don't get access to it. You want to buy booze? They card you either way. The law is that if you
they don't card 57-year-old men.
If you're going to let me finish, the laws in most places said if you appear under 60.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of places where like the casino over here. It says if you appear 30.
I see 30 a lot.
Yeah, it says if you appear to be under 30, you will be carded. And there's some liquor stores. The age is different in different states, but they set the super high threshold. If you're a 40-year-old man, you get carded. We do this to protect kids. I don't know, Myron, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the Miller test that she's referring to, it's a three-pronged test. Basically, obscenity is like the main factor that distinguishes if it's going to be allowed or not. And, as we progress as a society, that obscenity has become a higher and higher threshold to reach. And most standard heterosexual porn, like she was saying, is considered legal in the United States. Now, when it comes to my stance on porn, should it be completely illegal? I would like that, but ideally, I know that this is a capitalistic country, and the First Amendment is a thing, and you got the freedom of expression, et cetera, to a degree. So my thing is, I think it needs to be heavily regulated, and I don't think it should be on X at all. I think X is more of a political discourse app. It's an app to create, have a discussion with ideas. So I think if we are going to have pornography, though I strongly detest it, I think it needs to be heavily regulated and taxed, and we need to put barriers on it where it's not easily accessible and as ubiquitous as it is now in society.
So would you say the same when it comes to like any kind of like extreme violent content? Should that come off as well? Because I would argue that porn can be political, and it is because like everyone's talking about it. So in its nature, it is political. So if
Porn is political?
I think so, but if not,
Also,
because it's part of, I mean, we've fought to get it protected under the First Amendment, and that's why it's trending right now, is like whether or not that does qualify as freedom of expression, freedom of press, and ultimately it's kind of like it's showing how much sovereignty and agency you have over your own body.
Yeah, I see your perspective, but I think, putting porn on the same level as like freedom of speech, where we're actually having real discourse that is important, I think that's not on the same level. I think porn would be at a lower level there, where it doesn't necessarily deserve the same level of protection as political discourse, because political discourse is important. That's why our founding fathers founded this country. I don't think they were standing around thinking like, dude, we're really trying to beat our meat without problems. Like,
Founding fathers had a bunch of pictures, and it's like, and considering the First Amendment, look at this.
They weren't traversing the Atlantic Ocean, dying through scurvy, saying like, we need to whack off to porn. Like, I think for them, it was like, we got to get away from this monarchy and be able to have political ideals and be able to have this marketplace of ideas. So, like, though I see your perspective on pornography being a form of expression, I don't think it rises to the same level and needs of protection as political discourse and speech, right? Like for me, for example, like I'm real big on we need to protect free speech. I'm like as close as you could be to a free speech maximalist or absolutist, but I'm not a free image absolutist, right? If that makes sense. So I don't think, at least for majority of porn, it's not artistic or political in any way. It's strictly erotic, for financial gain, typically for people to get horny or whatever.
Well, for sure, I would actually agree with that part. But where I would say that it is political, is the right to exist. So it typically is the canary in the coal mine. It's like the first thing to go because no one wants to defend it. Even I'm here, I'm like, I don't want to say I'm pro porn, right? Like it's not something that people really champion or get behind for a whole host of reasons.
Oh, so you're saying its existence is political in nature, not the actual content being political.
Both can be true, but more its existence.
I don't know about you, but I've never seen a girl sucking D and talking about Democrats and Republicans, man.
There's actually some. Actually.
Come on. Rule 34, bro. If it exists, there's porn of it.
Oh,
yes.
God.
Yeah, I promise. There
really?
are. Yes.
That's where we are?
Don't you know the rules of the internet?
There's cancer ads. I actually shot a cancer ad back in the day.
What the hell?
Yep.
Yeah, but like,
what happened to good old classic stuff like the pizza guy shows up?
Man, like, let's be honest here though. Like, are people really logging into Pornhub to like figure out who they're gonna vote for? Like, let's see if the Democrats have a better video. Oh, I'm gonna vote for whoever puts out the best porn. Like,
wait. I gotta be honest.
Come on.
Everybody was sharing those pictures on X of like big busty Trump supporting women.
Yeah.
And they were all super hot.
Yeah.
And Kamala Harris, she didn't have none of that.
Look. I guess that's a strange niche that I might not be familiar with, but I think for us to sit here and say like we need to protect porn that is political in nature, well then all these companies are going to start wearing MAGA hats when they smash and stuff. Like
They do.
Well, no,
dude.
I'm saying all of them, not this niche.
The rules of the internet. Are you familiar? This goes back to the ancient lore, the deep magic as it was written. Rule 34 states, if it exists, there is porn of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, now I'm realizing that. But no, I mean, I see your perspective where you're saying like porn in itself is a political thing because it's a hot rod, right? Mm-hmm. Should we ban it? Should we not? But I think like to say, I don't think it deserves the same level of protection as like us having political discourse where we're discussing ideas, right?
Well, there is like different categories of protection, right? In political speech and political the ability to criticize your government is like the number one thing.
Paramount. That's the reason this country was founded.
Right, and everything kind of trickles down from there. But I'm saying it does need to be included because if you look at any like oppressive government, it always starts with obscenity or anyone that's like kind of criticizing the prominent religion.
You're worried about like the slippery slope where they take that away and you give them an inch, they take a mile. I could see your stance for that, but I don't think porn would be that impetus to for that to happen, right? I think I'd be more concerned when they start like silencing people for being critical of other topics that might be controversial.
But the famous poem, first they came for the trade unionists, then they came for the porn stars and the whores. As it goes,
it always starts with the porn. They're like, we're gonna censor this because it's obscene, and then most people are like, absolutely, like book bannings, we should do that, and it ends up. I think it was in Russia specifically where it ended up was you couldn't have any books that were in Hebrew, like that became illegal.
But so I don't accept this argument. the slippery slope argument. People make it all the
Not
time.
Hebrew, I'm a fan of that.
So the
All right.
so the arguments we get right now all the time from particularly the anti-establishment. I don't want to necessarily say the right, though the right is basically the anti-establishment. It wasn't always this way. The argument's always we can't use this power because then they will use this power. And it's like, bro, let me just tell you right now, evil people are doing horrifying evil things. We want to stop. The idea that we would let them continue doing horrifying evil things because maybe more evil will happen later is an afterthought. How about this? We know what we think is good and what we think is bad. So we say, this thing is bad and should have restrictions on it. And if later they come back and say, oh yeah, well now we're going to do even worse thing, we say, no. Right? So the way I describe it is the slippery slope moves in every single direction. The argument that we can't regulate or restrict porn because heavens, they might come back and censor something else. It's like, okay, well now they're giving kids porn, right? Which slippery slope do you want to take? And I got to be honest, how about we just try and fight to defend the area where we are? That means if a kid wants to go to an adult bookstore, you're not going to let him in. Check for an ID. You want to have a website where it's going to have this stuff? Okay, fine. Got to have an ID. Got to prove your age. X is a public platform. People can access. Restrictions. So in order to, if there's an account is flagged as not safe for work, it's got porn or other adult content or extreme violence, it is blocked off unless you can verify your age and you get a verification check with your ID and all that stuff. How about we do that? Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon. So subscribe and come hang out.